Today, we are lucky to be joined by our flow meter products expert, Rick Dye, who is our business development manager. We will also be joined by Daryl Kuda, who will be answering all of your questions. With that, I would like to turn it over to Rick.
Well, thank you, Sharon, and thank you everyone for attending today. I'm very excited to present a little different format than you might have seen in the past, which has been more technology driven. And while we do have a lot of great technologies here, one of the things I often get asked is, how are other municipalities using your equipment and maybe software? What are the other people in the world doing? And so that's why we feel like this was a really good presentation to share with you. And as Sharon mentioned, we're going to talk about municipalities, how they're using cloud-based software. In this case, I'll be referring to Flowlink Cipher, which is our version, but there are different cloud-based softwares out there. So whatever you're using, you should be able to kind of refer to some of these things. And a lot of it may be repetitive or repeat of what you've already seen out there. So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and get started here. Okay, so one of the problems that we look at with municipalities and what they're facing out there, a lot of them have two different types of systems or more. You have stormwater and things like that. But one of the most recent ones that I've worked with would be where they have two groups. One would be the collection system monitoring group. And then you also have the industrial pre-treatment group that are using instrumentation and software for billing purposes. But one of the challenges that you have would be the collection system group typically uses a lot of different software, a lot of different types of equipment out there. And when you have equipment in the field, a lot of times you need laptop computers and things like that, which involves a lot of IT involvement. And you'll have software updates, you have data storage potential issues on servers. And then if you have damaged hardware, you're going to replace that, which again requires IT to load new software, updates, and things. So that was one of the issues that one of the municipalities I talked to had. And then the industrial pre-treatment, which is using it really the equipment for a different reason. What we found is that a lot of them will have multiple technologies. So they want to bill the industry for what they're discharging to their system. And a lot of times that also involves sampling that water. But you may have brand XYZ, some are mag meters, some are open channel flow. And there's a lot of times varying types of equipment out there. And what that does is now you get varying format data. So everybody sends the data to the industrial pre-treatment group. They try to make sense out of it, and they try to put together a billing system for those customers. The other problem that you have with that is that you now are requiring the industry to be more proactive in, hey, I need my data, your data. I need it once a month and get it to me on the 30th of the month so I can put together your bill for that month. And that's always a little bit of a pain for the industry. They'd rather just pay the bill and move on their way producing whatever it is that they manufacture. So again, a couple different platforms, different ways that municipalities are using this stuff. And so how do you combine these? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, is how do we ease that pain, if you will. Okay, so we developed our cloud-based program, which is called Flowlink Cipher. And the reason we did that, we looked at and met with different customers in the industry and asked them what they liked, what didn't they like about different software. And one thing that was a common theme was most people like Flowlink software. They found it very user-friendly and a very powerful program, but it's getting pretty old as well. So we had to look at a different alternative to that. We have a retiring experienced workforce in the industry as well. So they knew their systems very well and didn't rely so much on software. Now you have a newer workforce that is going to be less experienced, but they're more into the computers, and they rely on that data to kind of help them understand what's going on in the system, unlike the retired workforce that's been there forever. Remote access to data is more affordable than ever before now, with cell modems are less expensive, the service monthly charges are less. So it's easier to get that data. And again, modems and cell service is much easier to obtain. Everybody is asked to do more with less. We're all in the same boat here. As resources are decrease or trying to do more with less, then that makes remote communications even more important. In the IT involvement, IT has a lot going on with keeping their system safe. And so to minimize the amount of IT involvement is also a big deal. Okay, and following up with that, so cloud-based data is acceptable now and very easy to maintain. So a Amazon server is what we're using for a cloud base. That's a very common one in the industry. Amazon, everybody's heard of those. They're very well protected, backed up. There's a lot of firewalls in there and so on. There's a need for early warning. So this is the other thing. People need to take action before something happens. So we need to be able to set up alarms to let us know when we're going to have an event or a potential disaster. And secure data, this is a huge one. Government agencies are being targeted by hackers. We see that, we hear it every day, and everybody's again in the same boat on that. Pattern analysis, event notification, cloud-based alarms. These are some of the other things. There's some other artificial intelligence with some cloud-based softwares that are fairly advanced. But the main thing at this point where we're at is more pattern analysis. We want to know, is something changing? Are we drifting a little bit? What's changing at that site? And then we may want an alarm on that. So cloud-based alarms or event notification. Hey, something's happening at site 3 and somebody needs to get out there. Importing non-Teledyne data. So the software needs to be able to bring in other manufacturers' equipment and data into one platform. So some of the benefits from a cloud-based program, and this applies pretty much across the board, whether it's us or somebody else, but there's no capital expenditure on hardware. So you don't have to have a server, no maintenance software, no database management. So now you're saving a lot on your IT resources and utilizing those folks where they need to be used. And the hacking, server is not on the premises anymore. So now we are able to, again, minimize the chance of somebody getting into the server and doing some damage. Loss of data, that's a big one. Again, we use the Amazon server, so we have a very powerful firewall, automatically backed up data, and redundancy of server. Fast analysis. Now with that Amazon based system, it will use more resources as the demand increases automatically. So now your computing power is greatly improved and increased. Okay, so some of the customer benefits again from this, what we looked at is what do people want to do? And one of them is I want a quick glance to see what's going on out there in my system. And so there are dashboard views and map views, and these are also very common in the industry with cloud-based software. Be able to do a quick analysis and reporting capabilities and things like that. So you can build templates into these programs and also compute different data sets. Programmable alarms, a huge one. In the past, you would typically go to your equipment, whatever it was, and you would set up some sort of alarm at the site. Now with cloud-based programs, you're able to set up an alarm in your office from your server or from your actual internet connection to your cloud-based software. So this is big. People really like that feature. And being able to access your data anywhere, anytime, anywhere in the world, as long as you have internet access, you can access that data. With cloud-based programs, they will also be where any updates, fixes in software bugs, or additional improvements or things like that that are added to it will happen behind the scenes. They're very well tested. And so by the time it makes it to you, you will have a very solid platform to work with that'll have all the latest updates and all the bug fixes and any improvements that are made to the software. Okay, so this is kind of a quick view of some of the dashboard views, and this is ours, but the other ones are going to look somewhat similar to this. So we are able to just quickly access that. We can see what's going on in our system at a quick glance. Battery voltage is a big one. So I want to be able to let my field crews get in the morning, they log in under their own password. They're able to see what's happening in my system. Do I need to go change batteries at site 5? It looks like I have a flat line. I need to go out and do some maintenance on the other one. So quick glance, what is happening out there? The other one would be a map view. What a map view is going to do would be allow them to easily, again, look at the map, see where their sites are. They can see if they're an alarm based on the color of the pin at the site. And now they can see, again, very quickly what's happening. They can click on one of those pins if they are in an alarm state, and it will take them right to the site data, and they can go ahead and they can graph it and see maybe what might be going on at that site, or if they need to go out and do some kind of maintenance on that. So again, those two are the real quick views, ways to assess what's going on in my system, whether it's industrial or whether it's collection system. How we manage all this data, this is another one that's a big one. So in the case of a lot of municipalities, you have two different groups. Again, you have the collection group, and they may have their sites for flow monitoring. That's all they want to see. But the other group, the industrial pretreatment, that's all they want to see. They don't care about the collection group. So even though they're both on the same team, they are really using two different parts of the program to do two different functions. And so that's why this has been very beneficial from a municipality standpoint, is you have one platform that now allows both groups to be able to utilize the same program and software. Okay, another one that's big is what we call the site folder, and a lot of cloud-based programs will have that as well. But what that's going to allow them to do is now they're going to be able to put any notes, pictures, video, things like that into a nice folder that would be in the cloud-based software. So in the past, people have taken pictures, they write Excel spreadsheets, documents, all kinds of stuff, and they put that in some format, and then they try to bring in the flow data or whatever sampler data they have, and they try to combine it all, and that makes it very difficult. That's not an easy thing to do. With the cloud-based programs now, they're typically all going to have some kind of a site folder where you'll be able to put in, again, pictures, video, notes, maybe site licenses or permits, things like that. They'll now be stored on the cloud and be in that document for anybody to view. So again, one nice, easy place. The other thing it will do that on the side there, you'll see to the right, it'll tell you the site name, where it's at, the manhole number, last time it received data, latitude, longitude, coordinates, but it will also tell you the serial number and what type of meter is out there. So look for that when you're looking at some cloud-based programs out there. Okay, and some quick analysis stuff. So you look at, what do you want this program to do? Some people want just some basic. I just want to know, hey, what's happening? Do I need to go out and change batteries or what? In this case, what you can do is you can create some very, very powerful graphs. You can also look at scatter plots. You can compare, look at I&I flow and those kind of things. I can do some looking at multiple sites coming into one location. So now I can add sites together. I can do my own kind of balance or flow balancing. So very powerful analysis capabilities, but a lot of this is capable of doing a graph with just a single click of a mouse. So you may need this kind of advanced analysis, but you may just want a quick view of what's happening. And my flat line in the case of the one down there on the bottom left. So if I have some flat lines, I know, hey, something's not right here. Get out there and do it. Once these are created, then typically you'll have a way of displaying those as public, which means you could have your data analyst set these up and then they make them public so that the managers of the system that don't necessarily have the experience with the software are able to see exactly what's going on there without having to know the program. All they have to do is be able to log in, have rights to look at that data. They can export from these types of programs and put it into a Word document or even an email to send out to either the city officials, in the case of maybe collection system, or the industry itself if you're looking at pre-treatment. Here's more of a detailed analysis one. So here in this case, we have flow data, which we're looking at our level, our velocity, and our flow data. But now we can export from this. We can make it tabular data. You can zoom in. You can add notes to this type of software. So you're able to pinpoint and say, okay, you had an event here. If it was industrial pretreatment, maybe you're monitoring pH. You had a pH spike. We got an alarm off that said I have pH violation, and now I can easily send this to the industry, or they can log in themselves into the cloud-based programs, and they just log in. They go, oh, we have a pH violation here. We need to do something. Editing of data. This is, again, more of the advanced, and this would be probably on the collection system monitoring side, where in a perfect world, you have no dropouts or bad readings. In the real world, those of you that do collection system monitoring, you may have ragging on in-pipe sensors and things like that, where you might have to do some kind of editing. So when you look for cloud-based programs, you want to have full capability of doing these types of things. And then one that was designed not that long ago was reports. And reports are very important for mainly the pretreatment group, because now what they can do is they can set up a report. They can import data and add to the report, but they can also set it up so these reports are automatically sent out to the client. So if you want, you get your report figured out, you can set up a scheduler so that every Monday or every first day of the month, it's going to send a report to whatever industry that they might be monitoring. Okay, so real quick, some of the hardware options, and you look at these on the bottom left would be your collection system monitoring, manholes, you're down in the dungeon there, and then the industrial pretreatment is off to the right. But anytime you're looking at hardware, whatever manufacturer it is you might be looking at, you want to determine what kind of power capabilities do they have. Is it AC powered or is it DC powered? Can they use a battery maybe in solar power? So they would use a deep cycle marine battery. But the ones on the left would typically use some sort of a submersible enclosure. In this case, that's one of our meters that would use a battery operated unit that is submersible. You put it down in the hole and it wakes up, takes readings, and goes back to sleep. The ones on the right, which would be more of the industrial, they're going to be typically more permanent, and they're going to be on primarily all the time, taking readings, and then they will send that data to a SCADA system and things like that. So here's just kind of an example of one that is industrial discharge, but it's going through a canal. You'll see there's a flow meter in there, and this one happens to have a solar panel on it. But the meter's on the right, so you could use the more permanent ones, which would be the signature on that. And then we have a hawk meter on the bottom right. And then we have another one of our meters on the upper right-hand side. So there are different types out there. There's a lot of other ultrasonic sensors and things like that. I think what's important is that you look at the, what your application is. But in any type of meter purchase, or when you're looking going forward, I think smart technology is kind of the way of the future, and we see more and more of that, and we're going that direction ourselves. But what smart technology allows you to do is mix and match depending on your application. So in a lot of these pretreatment groups, now they can stick with one permanent meter that would be flexible enough to be able to add different technologies. If I have a primary device such as a flume or a weir and it's working, they can go with that. If I don't, maybe I use a non-contact area velocity and so on. But you can also take different types of inputs, such as mag flow meters that might have an analog output or Modbus output. You could do multi-parameter SONs that might have a SDI12 output that comes into those. So any meter you look for, you need to look at the future and kind of say, what's going to give me the most capability and flexibility as I go forward. Almost every device now will connect to a SCADA system, RTUs, Ethernet, and then again, internet. So what these smart technologies allow you to do, though, again, is pick and choose what is best for my application. So I've just kind of listed some of these. Bubblers, if you have a lot of foam in your application, but you have a flume or something like that, bubbler doesn't care what's on top. Ultrasonic doesn't like foam, so you may not want to use that. Ultrasonics are very popular if you have a lot of grease and things where you don't want to plug a bubble tube. And then you have your standard area velocity in-pipe sensors, and you have your non-contact area velocity sensors as well. Okay, so for collection system, this is a pretty good shot to give you an idea of what a collection system site looks like. In this case, on the right, I have a couple different styles, and these can be permanent, which would be that one on the left there, and then or we can do more portable, and the portable ones would be more common. So on the bottom right, that's another type of data flow meter as well. It wakes up, takes readings, and goes back to sleep. And then again, we have one of our other ones on the upper right. So collection system will be mostly wake up, take a snapshot, go back to sleep. So they're designed for a very harsh environment, but they're also designed to be battery powered. So they want to wake up, take a reading, and be done. Okay, so how do we tie all this in? We hear a lot about smart cities and things like that, and that's kind of where we're going with a lot of these things. So now with remote communication, we're able to send data, normally cellular, but sometimes Wi-Fi, people want something like that. But remote communication now ties this whole network together. So whether it's pre-treatment that's waking up, or pre-treatment taking data, readings, and then sending it to the cloud, or the collection group, now it's all going to one central location. Here's just a couple of pictures I wanted to show you before we are getting close to wrapping up here. But I wanted to show you some of these so you have an idea of how do we get that data out of a manhole in the case of a collection system. In the pre-treatment group, that's normally not an issue because they will typically be on the site location of the industry. So they'll have above ground enclosures with remote antennas or external antennas, and no big deal. When you start getting into the street and the collection group, then you kind of run into where now I got to get that signal out of a manhole. How do I do that? In this case, these gentlemen went ahead and they used a external antenna, just drilled a hole, cored a hole through the top, and then used a magnetic style antenna on the top of that. So when we finally look at all this stuff, what is the goal? Well, we want to get we want to get our data. So in this case, they're looking at, here's I had an alarm. Somebody sent me an alarm, one of the sites. I can pull it up. I can look at my rainfall totals. I can look at the effect of the system on with the INI. So this is just kind of an example of a graph. Here's another one. This is from a more of an industrial application. So you can see the bottom is where the water is being pumped. So now we have spike, if you will. It looks like spike data, but it's real data. It's just telling you my pumps are kicking on and off at about that amount of time. You'll notice though the rainfall in the upper right, you'll see the corresponding pump times are obviously increasing on that because of the rainfall. So now the industry can see what's going on in their system. They now, even though maybe they're not so much into INI, but they don't want to pay for water getting into their discharge line. So this is also very important for the industrial pretreatment group. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But in summary, cloud-based software packages now are becoming more and more available, and they will fit almost any customer need. So this is going to really, really help with municipalities being able to tie all this stuff together. And then with the technologies that are available from different manufacturers, there's a wide range of different types of electronics and sensor technologies to meet almost every application. And this is why this is important for the industrial pretreatment group as well as the collection group. But industrially, this is going to be very, very important. And now cellular modems, again, tie all this together. So now you're taking all the data from the field, whether it's industrial or collection, we're bringing it all into one. It goes through cellular up to the cloud. And now with the cloud-based software, everybody has access, and it will make your life hopefully a whole lot easier and maintainable. And with that, I want to thank you for attending. And I would like to, again, ask you or allow you to go ahead and you can look at any one of these: Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions.
Well, thank you, Rick, for sharing your expertise. And as I mentioned prior, Daryl is with us to answer any of your questions. So please utilize the Q&A function, and Daryl would be happy to answer. I should also mention, Rick had mentioned to the Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You do have QR codes that we have provided. So for Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, please follow us. And that way you can keep up to date on all future webinars and any other events that we are doing. So with that, Daryl, I'll turn it over to you for questions.
Thanks, Sharon, and thanks, Rick, for that great presentation. We've got a couple of questions rolling in so far. The first one I have is in regards to historical data. Somebody wanted to know if they can bring in historical data into Cipher, and we have a couple of ways to do that. So the answer is yes. If you are using the Flowlink software, we have an archive option where you can just right-click on the site, archive, and you can push the historical data into Flowlink Cipher. If you have the data in a CSV file, maybe it's rainfall data or some non-ISCO data, or it could be ISCO data, we can also import a CSV file to bring the data into Cipher. And we have another question. It's more on the industrial side. Somebody has a magnetic flow meter and wanted to know how they could bring that flow rate data into Cipher. And so with that, what you would do is the signature meter that Rick was showing earlier, we have a 4 to 20 milliamp input option. And so we could take that signal directly into the signature meter, and then via modem, push the data directly into Cipher. That way everyone can see it. All right, let's see. We got another question in regards to allowing additional people to see the data. Are there additional costs to allow other users to see the data? So that's the nice thing about the Flowlink Cipher, is that it's a per site subscription, and then you can allow as many users as you want to view the data. And so you just pay per site, and then you can set up your collection system, different users in there to see it, possibly your client. You can set them up as a viewer to see the data. And then, you as the administrator would have the ability to set rights as to who and what they can view on the data. Now, if you need additional information on the Flowlink Cipher or any of the Teledyne ISCO products, you can contact us directly here at ISCO. Sharon will be sending an email out later, so you already have her contact information. Or you can go to the ISCO website, teledyneisco.com, and there's an option on there to find your rep. And so you just put in your zip code, and then you can find your local rep to contact them for information on Cipher or any of the ISCO products, or you can contact me or Rick Dye directly. But yeah, so I don't see any additional questions coming in. And but if you do have more later, feel free to email us. And with that, I will turn it back over to Sharon for the closing statements.
Well, thank you, Daryl, for answering these questions. And I would like to thank you all for joining us today for this valuable presentation.